Okay, so let's continue. We're recording this for the people who are not able to see it. We're recording this, and we're capturing the big screen and myself and the crowd. So here is the thing with automation, right? The way we started thinking about automation, it was basically like it was the idea that you would have a robot, and that robot would have um, like what it would do something for you, right? So it is the thing that you start thinking about a process, and then that process gets executed. Today, there is a lot of people talking about something called RPA. RPA is a terminology for robotized process automation or robot process automation. What is that? So imagine in the past, you would have, for example, if you had an invoice, you would have to get that invoice done like throughout several people, right? Someone has to look at it and then sign, and the next person goes and has to make sure that everything's all right with that invoice, and then someone else would go out and would pay. That process today can be all processed out. You can, in order to make sure that things happen as you thought that they should happen. Now, one of the things about automation that we need to keep in mind is that it is very much about the process. Okay, it's very much about thinking this beforehand. We test automations on everything we do in reinvention, right? And many of them, they fail. And usually when they fail, it's not because the technology is wrong. It's because we've thought the process wrong, right? So by experimenting with that, you're also gaining an edge on your customers, because if your customers need 5 people to do something and you only need 2, that difference goes straight into your pocket, right? And when you're starting a business, that makes a hell of a difference. So what we're gonna do.
Mario, not hearing you anymore. Is other people here?
I cannot hear you, Mario.
It is the first time that we're going to do something that it is essentially live. So if it doesn't work, I tested it before a couple of times, but if it doesn't work, you already know why, right? It is essentially the first time.
Mario, your audio is breaking sometimes. Can't hear you now.
I cannot hear you, Mario.
Yeah, I'm having some trouble with the sound for some reason, and also with this particular slide. So I'm gonna. So now, what are some of the things that you have to ponder when you talk about automation, right? What are some of the things that you have to consider when you're talking about automation? The first of them is actually the last one in this slide. What is the result that you want to get, right? Um, and why is that so important? Well, because let's imagine the following, right? I want to send an email to 5 people, right? Is it faster that I automate that process, or is it faster that I do it manually? The answer to that question is probably, you know what? If you have that pre-written email, you just change the fields that you want to change, and then it's faster to send that email to 5 people, right? Unless, of course, you know that in 2 months, you will be sending that email to 500 people, in which case doing it manually doesn't make any sense, right? So the question here is, how much is it going to be that the time that you have to invest in getting the results, not where you are today, but as you build that process? Also, because when you consider the results that you need to have, okay, many times we're building the processes around our business considering where we are today, okay? So let's just stop and think for a second, right? If I have 15 customers and I can make $1,000 per customer, right? Investing $100 of cost per customer. Is that a good business? Please clap your hands if you think this is a good business. That you invest $100 per customer and you make $1,000 per customer. Who thinks that's a good business? So what's important here is that when you start thinking about that, and I think, Baldan, I don't know if you've ever thought of this, but when you started, I remember you saying that, you know, we want to get perhaps 10,000 users, right? I don't think you've ever thought that you were going to have an audience of 500,000. Did you?
No, I was not dreaming big. I thought the maximum I could achieve it was 100 followers, and now 500,000.
Yeah, thank you for that. So when you're thinking automation, that's the thing, right? How big are you going to get? And as you go, it's not the tool. There are tools for everything, right? In one of the companies I'm sitting on the board, we have access to Microsoft Dynamics, which you can basically automate the world in there if you want. But the thing is not the tool, it's the process. The next thing that you need to think is actually the one that comes right before, is the variable, right? The variables that you will have to include when you think about automation. So I'll give you an example of what are the variables you're talking about. So let's imagine the following, right? Let's imagine that you and your team have a meeting every week that you want to make sure that everyone is updated on, right? Even the people who do not attend, right? But you don't want to keep tabs on the attendance. What are some of the variables that you have to think in order to make that happen? I'm going to show you today what we have in MedTech Max, which is we merge a couple of the tools that we use, and then people have access without having to think about that or ask, right? They know it becomes their second nature because all the variables are connected. But you need to think of the variables. The good thing about that today is that there are many tools that will bring the variables to you. So you can connect this variable, that variable throughout the tools. Beyond that, there are tools that are super robust that you can basically map all the variables all the way down to the detail in documents, right? So I want to map these 3 bits of this document to read these 3 fields from this other thing and connect and so on. But again, remember, it is the variables, they come from the processes that you're executing, okay? So if you want to scale quickly, right, that is the easiest way, because then you're able to communicate with multiple parties at once, and then you can focus on really what is it that you're going to say. And here I have a comment, right, because a lot of the discussions we've had up to this point on automation, and I remember a few months ago when we had the Phantom Buster, the LinkedIn, I think Baldan is already making some money off that thing, which is great.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I love it. But that one element, right, that we put in there, it's one way of thinking automation. So can I do outreach for thousands of customers, right? And the answer to that question is yes. What are some of the variables? What Phantom Buster does is it brings this down to very, very simple things. What we're going to talk about today is slightly more sophisticated, but a lot more powerful. And it can help you both in terms of the processes you use today, but also the processes that you might need as you start scaling your business. So for example, Carlos' marketing agency, right? When Carlos is working and he needs to capture 15 customers, right? He needs probably to have a sales funnel of 200 customers in order to start talking to those 15. So Phantom Buster works. But if he needs to start generating content, right, across multiple platforms, then he needs to move on to the next level of sophistication in this, which is a little bit of what we're going to show. And then the last part of this is connection, right? This is not about making things faster or cheaper. This is about making things go exactly where they need to be, right? And at scale. So that connectivity is extremely important because when you connect those variables in the right way, you're actually creating a machine that works for you when you're asleep, right? You don't have to think about that. You don't have to do anything with it. You don't have to ask questions, right? You have probably to look at the error logs, and that is about it, okay? So what we're going to show now
We can hear you.
I think you are seeing this. So here, what we want to show is an example of something that we do, okay, and that we have here. I'll talk to you a little bit about these automations, okay? I will show you a simple one, and then I'll show you one that I'm in love with since we started putting it together a couple of weeks ago, right? Because it's something that I wanted to test out, and then the repercussion of that is tremendous, okay? Can you see this? Please clap your hands if you can. Awesome, awesome. Thank you very much. I'm going back to the presentation mode. So the first one that I want to show you is a very, very simple one, right? It's the second. So I just want to explain you a little bit of what you're seeing here. Zapier is a tool that connects various tools, right? There are more than 2,000 applications in Zapier. And what Zapier does is it communicates through something called the API, which I'm not going to go into it, but every application that has an API is able to communicate with other applications. Okay, it's that simple. So what we're doing here is we're telling our databases, okay, so if something comes in database A, then do this. So I'm going to show you this one. So HubSpot is in Reinvention the CRM that we use, right? It's super robust. We use the free version. We have, I don't know, a gazillion contacts in there. Also, thanks to Rene, 6 months ago when he gave us multiple contacts that were not supposed to be there, but then they are. It was fantastic, right? So what we do have in there is a simple, very, very, very simple automation. So if anyone gets added in HubSpot, then you tag them subscriber in MailChimp. So if you book a call with me using my Calendly, in the small letters, it's going to say, hey, do you accept to get blah, 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 and then you get something. And then when you're tagged as a subscriber, you're going to get an email saying, hey, welcome to Reinvention. Click here. Do you want to subscribe or not? Right? So we're not just killing people in the process. But it is a good way for you to start connecting with people. So here, the way you do it.
Hello?
Then
We cannot hear you.
then you're going to customize whatever it is that you want to.
Okay, I'm the only one. I'm not the only one.
Then it's going to find it for you.
No, it's very hard to hear you, Mario. It comes and goes, the audio.
Can you hear me?
No, we can hear you.
Okay, I'm going to try and go back. So the first thing that you do is you choose what you want the app to be. And then, so if you create something in there, this is what happens. Then the next thing is you choose an account, and if this, then that. And then you customize, meaning what do you want to get, right? This one is very simple. If I'm not mistaken, I think this is the first one I made, I don't know, a year and a half ago, 2 years, right? And when I was playing with it and trying to figure out what was the way to use this, right? It was part of our stack, but I didn't know how to use. Then the next thing is, so imagine the following. I'm collecting all these things, and now I want that thing to happen, okay? So, but I want that thing to happen somewhere else. So what I do is the following. I am moving that data over, or not me, Zapier is moving that data over to the other application and saying, and asking the same things, right? So what is the app? What is the event? What is the account? How do you customize send data? And then what happens is that it's working automatically. So it's sitting on the background whenever something happens, okay? Whenever a new customer gets added in HubSpot, they're going to go straight into MailChimp, okay? So imagine the following. If your Reinvention Revolution was a car, I'm actually showing you the hood right now, okay? Because that is how we collect information from customers and we start communication with customers, and that's how we show them, okay, this is something that works. Here are some of the examples that we have, and so on and so forth. That's where the weekly email comes from. So all those subscribers, they're extremely important for us for the movement. Yes, I have a question here. Hang on one second. Francis, you look interesting today. Hang on one second. You have the mic, Francis.
All right, thank you. So
Can't
I
hear
understand
you.
the function of Zapier, but is I would love to understand why you choose HubSpot and Mailchimp, because there are a lot of tools like that out there. So how do you make the right decision? Because in when you choose a CRM, then it's very difficult to change to another one if you didn't make the right decision because of all the information that you are inputting on the app, right? And I don't know if it is the same with the Mailchimp, but it's a key aspect of having the underhood working, that that key decision that you took. So how did you do it?
Francis, sorry, I clicked something wrong. Francis, I think that's a great question. To begin with, let's take a step back, right? When I started Reinvention, my dream was to be able to do this with free tools, right? So I established what were the criteria that I wanted to have to get started. I think I don't have almost anything free anymore with the exception of HubSpot, but we are also using it very little because today with the automations that we have, I think the old concept of a CRM almost does not apply to Reinvention Revolution anymore. I don't know, Rene, would you agree to that? So yeah, he would. So I think that's the first thing, right? So the criteria was what's free and what is the most robust free tool out there. That's how we chose. I can tell you, for example, in MedTech Max, we started looking at Zendesk, for example. I have a thing called Founders Card, which is a discount card for founders that gives you tools and things and access to hotels, airlines, and a bunch of other things. So Zendesk is a part of that. We actually looked at that. And then I think it was Andrea in the end that said, you know what, this is too expensive. Let's go with something cheaper. And we ended up settling with something cheaper. I'll show you a little bit of it right now. So so the criteria was free and robust. Now, very important. It is, so when you populate deals into a CRM, it gets harder to change. But today, every single CRM will have like an import function that can bring everything else. It's a big part of reducing friction when changing, right? I think Rene evaluated, for example, SharpSpring, if I'm not mistaken, and it could basically get everything from HubSpot with 5 clicks, right? So I think it's also and by the way, SharpSpring could do what HubSpot and what Mailchimp do together, right? Super robust tool. We have not yet decided on that because, well, let's just say there were a couple of things happening in MedTech Max that have been dragging our attention on that front, on the tech front for Reinvention Revolution. But I can tell you that it's something that we're also looking at. The next thing is also you have to be willing to test new tech, right? Because things are evolving very quickly. Spoke didn't exist 4 weeks ago, and today Spoke can, if you read our email, you can basically transcribe anything you're doing on the computer over video automatically and change and edit and do a lot of things, right? So this complete new tech that 2 guys and friends have come up with, and it's awesome, right? So Contract Book, we're about to sign a contract with Contract Book in order to streamline our contracting. Same thing, right? We're getting new technology out there, looking at whatever is cutting edge, serving as early adopters so that you guys don't have to, right? So that's also something that that you got to keep in mind. Does that answer your question, Francis? Thank you. So back to the presentation. So I'm gonna talk a little bit about, you know, two tools that you would not think they can coexist. And the first time I did this, even Rene had this question mark, why are you doing this, right? What is the point? But I think today, everybody who is part of this, they appreciate. So imagine the following, right? We have a daily stand-up in MedTech Max. Things are changing so quickly that that it's almost crazy, right? Some days you wake up with questions from India. Some days you wake up with, you know, a validation from New Jersey, and some days you're just wondering why no one has knocked your door yet. But in a way, what we do is we have very much in line. The ones of you who know me for the last 15 years, I'm a freak for operating systems in companies. So we have our own operating system in MedTech Max. What we do is we have a meeting every morning at 8:30, 15 minutes, and now we're recording that, okay, in Zoom. Why are we recording that in Zoom? Because sometimes people can't join, or sometimes people have other things that at that moment are more important. If you're discussing a deal with someone in India, you want to make sure that that deal gets done before they go to bed, and this may impact, right? So it's very much to do with asynchronous work, meaning the work that you do that it's there, you know it's there, but you may or may not be a part of it, right? So we have some hard rules in MedTech Max as a company. So if you're not there and the decision is made, you're adopting it no matter what, right? There's no point for discussion afterwards. So if it is so important that you have your opinion in the room, you have to be there, right? Then it changes the priorities a little bit. But if you're not, you will be assigned activities in ClickUp, right? So we have a process where whatever we agree and decide in our daily meetings, they get pushed into ClickUp. ClickUp is basically a tool that looks like Monday, but it's a little bit cheaper, and I think is going to be a little more effective in the long run than Monday, right? But so we control our operating system inside ClickUp. So, but imagine the following. Imagine, and this started happening, right? So I got a task from me in ClickUp, but I don't understand what's going on. And then I have to go and spend someone else's time to look into that, right? And then you're spending your time, his time, and it's not working, right? So what we do is we park everything in this daily stand-up, all right? We go in there and then we fix it. Whatever decisions we need to make, we make those decisions. We add the tasks manually in ClickUp, okay? But then what we do is whoever was not in the call, they get a link to listen to the call or watch it if that is what they need. Look at how. So this is Zoom, and there is a new recording. So that new recording has to have a specific name for this to work. So I have to create an event. So I have to think one variable, an event name. Then I choose my account, which is relatively simple. Then this is a meeting, but imagine the following. Imagine that you wanted to automate something that happens on a webinar. Marce, you do a lot of promotion now for the webinars, right? People come in, they join your webinar, you want something to happen as a follow-up, you can send emails out of that particular webinar automatically without sitting in any tool, right? Just with these two tools. So just an example. And then you find the data, right? What does that mean? Zapier is going to go into Zoom and is going to say, hey, I found what you're looking for. Now, what is the trick here? That you have to be careful, right? You have to be very, very precise about what you want to do. And the paid versions of Zapier offer something that I think is amazing, which is filters. So only continue if in the topic you find text containing MedTech Max management, da da da. So it's only for this that's going to work, right? And then you choose where it's going, right? So you choose where it's from, and now you're choosing where is it going. So just one thing, you choose the app and the event is, I want to create a task. Okay, it's already up here. My account. And this is where the whole magic with variables happen. Okay, why? Because you want this to go exactly where you want it to go so that it can create the desired action. Okay, guys, very important, desired action. You want this to be something that people will look at and will say, aha, this is coming automatically. I'm going to be waiting for it. So, for example, this is for MedTech Max. It's part of the operating system. There is no folder. It's in a list called implementation plan. And then the topic is this. This is how it's going to come for people with the password and everything, okay? Do not get too hooked up on what you're seeing here right now, because this is the original construct, right? It doesn't mean that the topic's always going to be the same, because you can copy this, okay? So you get two files, you get to audio play and video play. And then you get the asynchronous, whoever is going to need to get this information, okay? Then the tags that we want to include, what is the priority, and when is the due date? Meaning the due date is always tomorrow, right? Because I'm creating it today, I want the due date to be tomorrow. Then you send the data and off you go. So you get something created in a list that's sitting there and waiting for you as you come, all right? So think about this. Imagine the million things that you could do differently for your business if you could automate instead of having to think about some of these things. Now, you're going to say, well, but so does it mean that you don't do anything automated anymore, in hand anymore? Yeah, we do. So there are some things that we automate because they make sense, and there are some things that we don't automate because they don't make sense. And that's essentially where right now we continue to play with the different things that we are doing and ensuring that, okay, there is a value for the automation here. Let's continue to push this. All right? Do we have any questions up to this point?
Hello?
Well, in that case, I'm going to continue with the presentation.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, Francis, you have the mic.
Okay, thank you. So there is a trick on a automatization, right? Which is falling into the spam category. So how do you avoid becoming an annoying automatization like we all receive every day. So if I open my Gmail, I have three tabs: principal, social, and something else. In social, I have 16 emails every day. So how do you avoid falling in that category and become one more?
That
Because
that is clearly our one more thing. It's a process, right? It is not the tool, it's the process. So, for example, we made a mistake 6 months ago with our email list, and we got like a, a million people unsubscribing, right? And at first, it was like, fuck, what's happening here? Why is this going on? And da da da. But the reality is that was our fault, right? Because we did not look at the process thoroughly enough. Okay, when you're so a big part of this, Francis, is a change of mindset. Okay, when you're doing this and you're sending to 20,000 people, every second that you spend on that email crafting it and preparing it, you need to multiply by 20,000 seconds, because that's the amount of time that people will invest on it, right? So it's very tricky when you talk about that. That's usually why, and it was not something I did. It's a mistake I did when I was starting and I was alone in this. I would actually not recommend that you start automation looking out. I would recommend that you start automation looking in. Does that make sense?
the in and out, I don't get it. What do you mean by
So
looking in?
instead of, because when we think automation, we think let's scale the business, let's send more information to more people. Does that, yeah?
Sorry,
So
yes.
what I'm saying is, I'm sorry, Francis, are you talking?
No. I said yes.
So what I'm saying is, for example, there are various ways that you can automate internal processes, even if they are processes associated um, with communication with customers, for example, right? But what you automate is the principle, and it's not, you're not multiplying. Automation is not only multiplying the reach, is getting that those elements that you need to get out there for the customer done right. So I'll give you an example. We are now working on the mentorings, right? All of those. Let me see if I can show you here. Just one second. Give me one second. I'm logging in is slightly harder on this browser. Just give me one second. So Francis and Tiago and some of the others who are through the process right now. So what we do is we get the mails in from Calendly in a sequence, okay? So what is the sequence? Because we have a program that has fixed touch points, right? So what we're doing here is we're automating the whole thing, but in a different way. So I'll give you an example. So I'll give you the example of Reinvention Revolution mentoring third meeting. Okay. So we have the event, we have the questions, all the things, but where we automate is actually here. You have two sequences of events that you need to consider. The first one is the reminders, where you're going to get, you need to be reminded about this, that, and the follow-up email. And in the follow-up email, okay, what you're going to have is a way for you to look at, how to get the next booking, what are some of the things you need to be reminded about, and so on and so forth. So here is where you get this, okay? So one example. And I hope you guys don't think that we love you less because of this. We continue to love you a lot, but it's just we want to make sure that you're getting, the best copy that's going to lead to the best energy and that's going to lead to the best results. So here is what we do. Your first name. I hope you have a great time. Blah 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 blah. And then I'm just continuing the conversation down below and down below. Thank you very much. Blah blah blah. And off we go.
So basically, these tools are a consequence of what you're trying to do, more efficient. That's the point, right?
That's why the processes and the variables and the connectivity are so important. But you're absolutely right. Okay. So with this, we're running out of time. I just want to make sure that do you have any questions? Anything that you would like to ask? So ask me anything. Is there anything that you want to ask? So that is great, guys. Thank you so much for coming today. I love to see the room getting filled. Clap your hands if you like. All right, I love this. It's super cool, super cool. So a change from last week. We're gonna send you guys an email between today and tomorrow. That's not automated. We want to make sure that we are giving you, on these weekly meetings, also the best content for you, something that makes sense for you and matters for you. So we're gonna start giving out an agenda that is based on what exactly it is that you guys want to see. Okay, so the Theo family is growing a lot as well. There's a lot of people who are getting the videos, coming back with questions and so on. So we want to make sure that we are not that we keep that we keep that in mind. Why are we growing our audience? What kind of content matters for them, right? So I just want to make sure that we are clear on this, and we will have a secret email also coming. It's a separate one. We will be recording live the Act Now lesson. So we're only going to send this to a handful of people. Whoever's in the room today is going to get it, right? And a couple of other more. But this is just so that you can see firsthand what we've worked on with Act Now, and we'll do that tomorrow. Okay. I hope that you have an amazing day and a great weekend when you come to it. Thank you so much, guys. Love you. See you next week. Cheers.